Alright, so I'm going to do a short little guide on Covenants for Affliction Warlocks in Shadowlands. And I think this basically applies to Desperate Warlock as well. But yeah, without further ado, in Shadowlands there's a new system, new borrowed power system, we love those. And they're called Covenants. Basically they're factions that you align yourself with. You basically kind of have to stick to one, and just it takes a lot of time and resources and stuff to switch around, so you really don't want to make the wrong decision with it. So there's 4 different covenants: Night Fae, Kyrian, Necrolord, and Venthyr. And within each covenant there are 3 different kinds of Soulbinds, and each one is basically just a passive talent tree. And also within those Soulbinds you have these things called Conduits, which slot into these spots here with the little X sign, the shield, and the lightning bolt. And there's 3 different kinds of conduits. First one being endurance, which is the defensive oriented conduit. Second one being finesse, which is more utility based. And lastly, and most importantly, potency, which is your damage conduits, and are actually really important for Affliction Warlock. The only viable options for Warlocks, especially Aff, is Venthyr, which is Nadia's Soulbind. She is the first one you actually unlock, fortunately, so you'll get it pretty early on. I'll go into why, but if you want to play something else, I would also suggest playing Kyrian. Pelagos from Kyrian is actually pretty decent, and yeah, I'll go into that afterwards. So to start off with, each covenant that you align yourself with has 2 different abilities, and for Venthyr you get Door of Shadows, which is basically a minute casted portal. You just, yeah, it's basically like a gateway that activates instantly on a minute cooldown, so it's pretty good. Affliction needs a lot of help to survive, so having an extra ability to kite with is actually really helpful. The second ability you get is Impending Catastrophe. It's basically like Seed of Corruption, except it will spread its own dot, and it also smart curses, meaning if you cast it on a priest and it spreads onto a warrior, the priest will have Curse of Tongues, and the warrior will have Curse of Weakness. Honestly, not the greatest ability, you don't press it that often, but nice to have, and the dot also works for Malefic Rapture, so you do more DPS. Okay, so back to this. This is the tree that you want to go down for Nadia, Venthyr. And the reason why you take this Covenant or Soulbind is because of 2 reasons. The first one being this one. This is basically like a Bloodlust. Basically you just stack up passively, and when you hit max stacks you get a 20% haste buff. Affliction has a lot of issues with global bloat, so having this extra haste really helps out a lot. Secondly, you take it because of this talent here, Familiar Predicaments, and what it does is it's a relentless for your snares and roots, which is nice but not exactly why you want it. When you get interrupted, the lockout just lasts 25% less. Affliction needs to cast a crap ton in Shadowlands, so this actually helps a lot because yeah, the less downtime you have, the better, right? In my opinion, this is the best path for any Affliction Warlock, and I would say for Destra as well. Obviously with Destra you have different potency conduits, but I'll make a video on that later. So I'm gonna show you which ones I take. You want to go left side, because although I think this one here, Fancy Footwork, is actually better than Agent of Chaos, you actually want to go to the left side, because then you can take the potency conduit. And how you can tell is by this little X that signifies that it's a potency conduit slot. As I said before, that's our damage conduits, and this one here is one of the best. I think this is the best actual DPS conduit in PvP. It just makes your Rapture do 15% more damage when it has UA on it, very simple. For this slot here, Finesse is your utility conduit. You can either take Fell Domination reduction, or you can take Demonic Momentum, which is a little bit of a sprint when you use Port. There's also a third option, I'll show you in a second, which currently in my opinion is not that useful, but there's a third option which I think might have some use eventually if they actually end up buffing Fear or like give us some more damage reduction, which is basically increases the threshold of Fear before it breaks. Currently I would never take this over Fell Celerity, which is the Feldom, or the Sprint on Port. just because they're just so good compared to Fear, and Fear just breaks instantly anyway, so you really don't want to be pressing it. Anyway, this talent here is basically useless and not related to PvP at all, so we'll skip that. And here we have the Endurance Conduits. There's two other options, but honestly they're really, really bad and you would never play them anyways. So you want to take Resolute Barrier for this one here. And it basically just makes wall come up pretty, like, a little bit more often. Almost at the end, your second Potency Conduit, and last one for Venthyr, is Rolling Agony. At rank 1, it increases duration of Agony by 4 seconds, and I'm mentioning how much of an issue Global Bloat is for Affliction. This actually goes up to 9.6 seconds extended duration on Agony at max level. So yeah, that actually helps a lot with maintaining your dots up on, especially in 3s where it can be a lot more tough to do that. And yeah, of course, lastly we have Relentless for interrupts. So overall, Venthyr, in my opinion, Nadia, the Mistblade, this is the best option, and I personally am going to go for this one as well. For Potency Conduits, there is a third Potency one, which reduces Dark Layer's cooldown when Agony and UA ticks, or has a chance to. I just don't think it's valuable, because the other two are just too good. Focus Malignancy is really OP, 15% Malefic Rapture DPS boost is nuts, and this helps with globals way too much. Maybe if the globals aren't such a big issue, and like maybe you can't play Rapture, you could consider... Sorry, you can't cast Rapture too much, maybe you can consider playing Corrupting Leer, but I think for a cookie cutter build, yeah, this is what you want to go. There is another option I want to show you guys. So for Kyrian, they have Pelagos, which is fortunately the first Soulbind you unlock as well. So I'll show you what the abilities are first. First one is Scouring Tithe. It's basically on the Arcane Tree actually, so it is pretty nice. You can press it if you get kicked on Shadow. Affliction only has one school, so this is actually kind of nice. It just puts up a dot. It's not that interesting. Its second ability though is why you would consider going Kyrian. It's a 3-minute cooldown, 3 charge File of Serenity. What it does is it heals you for 20% and removes curses, diseases, poisons, and all bleed effects. So that is actually extremely useful, except for the fact that it's on a 3-minute cooldown and only has 3 charges. But anyways, the talent tree for this is pretty decent. When you cast the class ability, it gives you mastery. I can't remember exactly how much mastery it was, but it was a pretty decent amount. So this the damage from it is actually pretty nice. Go down left tree to get Potency Conduit. Focus Malignancy again. This one is basically useless. Resolute Barrier. These are not combat talents, so useless. Last Potency Conduit, you go back to Rolling Agony. And Utility Conduit, it's just dependent. Demonic Momentum or Fell Celerity, depending on what you're facing really. And lastly, this is really good too. What this does is it's basically 5% verse permanently that you always have. Just makes you a little bit tankier overall, in addition to the Fire of Serenity you have from the class ability, is why I think that Pelagos from Kyrian might be a decent alternative if you're dying a little bit too much. But I think overall, we want to go for Venthyr just because of how good that Relentless Interrupts thing is, plus the mini Bloodlust. That's basically it. Hopefully I have it all covered, and if anything changes, I will make a new video or update this one in the comments or description. So yeah, thank you for watching.